Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And tonight I rise at adjournment proceedings to take up a question that I asked quite some time ago now, but it is still timely. And given the response to the question from the member from Saskatoon Grasswoods, I'm disappointed in what I've heard so far. My question was to the Minister of Energy, and I asked him to apologize for remarks that he made on in December on Power and Politics, where he said, quote, "Any intelligent person will tell you that Northern Gateway was overturned by the Federal Court of Appeal. Not moving forward on Energy East was a decision of the company." Well, Mr. Speaker, I renew my call on the Minister to apologize for insulting the intelligence of Canadians that see quite clearly what this government has done to ensure that pipelines do not get built in the extreme lengths that they will go to. On the question of Northern Gateway, Madam Speaker, it is as if that minister was not even aware of Order in Council 2016-1047. This was the Order in Council that terminated Northern Gateway. It was a minister's decision to terminate approval for that project.
Shameful.
It was also as if that minister was not aware that his own government had introduced Bill C-48, which is right now struggling its way through the Senate, where hopefully it will die. But this House had passed a bill, Bill C-48, that would render the Northern Gateway project impossible. So for him to say that any intelligent person will tell you it wasn't the government that rendered this project unviable is insulting to Canadians who can see very clearly how this government's policies have affected pipelines. Let's look at where we were when this government took office. There were 4 very large pipeline projects. 2 were already approved. And that is the Keystone XL project and the Northern Gateway project. There were approvals in place on both of these projects. The Energy East project was contemplated. It hadn't reached the stage of a formal application. And there was also the Trans Mountain expansion, again, which was at the pre-approval stage. This government chased away all of these projects in their own way. They failed to champion Keystone XL and wasted time during the Obama administration, and that project still is not built. The Northern Gateway, we know that this government killed it deliberately by Order in Council and by the shipping ban. Energy East, we know that this government moved the goalposts to render approval an impossibility and not even worth pursuing by the proponent. And Trans Mountain, well, time doesn't even allow me to get into the entire debacle of the Trans Mountain expansion, but this government ignored all of the problems that were mounting on that. They voted against opposition motions calling upon them to take positive steps to ensure its approval. Then they bought it, paid $4.5 billion for it, promised construction would begin immediately, and no shovels are in the ground. All 4 projects, Mr. Speaker, none are built.
Oh, Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the honourable member for Calgary Rocky Ridge for his question. Mr. Speaker, through Bill C-69, we are delivering on a promise to Canadians to review and streamline our environmental review and regulatory process. We know that this legislation will put in better rules to protect our environment, fish and waterways, help rebuild public trust in how decisions about resource development are made, all while strengthening investor confidence and advancing Indigenous reconciliation. How? By implementing a single, integrated, and consistent approach based on the principle of one project, one review, and by ensuring that good projects move forward in a predictable and timely way. Indeed, Bill C-69 would actually tighten timelines, eliminate overlap among review panels, and make government more accountable. This new approach would also help to diversify Canada's energy markets, expand our energy infrastructure, and drive economic growth. That's what Bill C-69 does. It's about ensuring the economy and the environment go hand in hand. That was our vision behind Bill C-69 and the reason for creating a new Canadian energy regulator to replace the National Energy Board. We want to create a new federal regulator that reflects Canada's changing energy needs with an expanded mandate, greater diversity, and enhanced powers. This is important and, frankly, overdue, because the NEB's structure, role, and mandate have barely changed since it was created in 1959. We need a modern regulator to integrate Canada's energy, economic, environmental, and climate goals, and at the same time renew Canada's relationship with Indigenous peoples. All of these things are clearly illustrated in our government's comprehensive response to the Federal Court of Appeal's decision on the Trans Mountain Expansion Project. We instructed the National Energy Board to reconsider its recommendations on the project to include the effects of marine shipping related to the pipeline's expansion. We relaunched our government's Phase 3 consultations with Indigenous groups affected by the project. These actions are among the things that makes Bill C-69 transformational. Earlier public consultations and Indigenous engagement, greater collaboration with the provinces and territories, and decisions based on science. Through all of these measures, we can create a Canadian energy sector for tomorrow's clean economy, one that is globally competitive, attracts investments, and ensures that we are developing and transporting our energy responsibly. All things that Canadians have told us were important to them. And Mr. Speaker, Bill C-69 shows that we were listening. Thank you.
Member for Calgary, Rocky Ridge.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Bill C-69 actually demonstrates exactly the opposite. It confirms that this government is not listening. She spoke of collaboration with provinces. She spoke of competitiveness of our resources. I bring to her attention the catastrophic differential on Canadian crude for the lack of pipeline capacity, and I bring to her attention the testimony of Premier Kenney and Minister Savage at the Senate Energy Committee last week. And she will note from the testimony there that this Bill C-69 is precisely the absolute wrong approach and the most disastrous thing they could do to rectify the inability under this government for any of these other pipelines to get built. This is the bill that will ensure no similar project is ever proposed in Canada until it is repealed.